well.
And so I would like to introduce everyone. This is Anabel Valenzuela. And she and I have so much in common, but she's one of my local heroes. Annabelle, I met, just to give a little background, Annabelle and I met at Aliceville. And when I was trying to put together the Peer Success Program, she brought her clerical and wisdom and experience in creating content for curriculum and her massive organization and typing skills and helped me really was a key in helping me form the peer success program. So, thank you again for that, Annabelle. And she's also, I should say, a recipient of a presidential clemency or pardon me, a presidential pardon. And that was through the Can Do Foundation, the same beautiful woman, Amy Pova, who helped me to realize my freedom. And Annabelle currently works for a beautiful organization called Hope for Prisoners, which is a reentry program in Las Vegas, Nevada. So, welcome, Annabelle. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, Annabelle, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, Naomi's going to be a little bit late coming on,
No,
so we'll go ahead and get started. But have you ever seen Julie Chrisley 2.0? Have you seen the Chrisleys 2.0?
no, I haven't.
I should send you the link. But so they have, you know who the Chrisleys are, though, of
Yes, of
course,
course, yes.
And so, they just did 2 years in a cupcake camp and they have an amazing audience and they're using their voice to talk a lot about the realities of the BOP. And so I really wanted to have this conversation today because, however valuable their situation is, our situation was a lot different, having done a decade or two in federal prison, especially during COVID and in a situation that was not quite like a camp, right? At an
Right.
FCI. And so I really wanted to talk about that. So, first of all, I wanted to see if what was one of your biggest struggles when you came home? And you could say a few things. Maybe I didn't say all the things that I should have in introductory. So maybe you could go ahead and say just a few things about yourself.
Well, I originally was sentenced to 32 years in federal prison for, mm, it was for drug conspiracy and money
Okay, yes,
laundering.
ma'am.
Of those 32 years, I served 17 and a half years, and I was released through a presidential pardon through President Trump. On May 28th of this year, 2025, I was released on immediate release. Um, I had been fighting probably for about 10 years trying to gain release because I felt that there was a lot of inconsistencies in my case. Um, I felt like I kind of got a harsh sentence because I went to trial because there was
Mm,
many inconsistencies in my case.
mm.
But finally, um, someone believed in me and I was able to get out of prison on May 28, 2025, like I said. And I served 17 and a half years. In 15 of those years, I served at the FCI in Dublin, California.
Mhm.
The FCI of Dublin, California was closed on in April. It was April 15th of 2024. There was some things that happened at that prison and the BOP decided to close it. So they shipped out all the inmates that were there. So I didn't know where I was going. So I ended up in Alabama, very far from home because my family lives in Las Vegas. So when I got to Alabama, that's where I met Celeste, which I'm very
Yay.
happy to have met her. And
Yeah.
I met a lot of good people. I was really scared to leave California because I was there for so long. But once I left, I realized there was a lot of good, um, deserving people in other places, like just smart people doing a lot of time,
Yeah.
like 15, 20, 30
Right.
years life. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. It
Actually,
just
when
the whole experience was for me. a scary experience, but once I was going through the experience, it really opened up my eyes to all these women that are in the BOP and the need that we have for more programs for women. There's a lot of programs for men, but not enough programs for women because the women population is a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And I also transferred from Alabama to go to Danbury, Connecticut, which is another federal prison, to take a program called the FIT program, which is a female integrated trauma program.
And I
And
was
I also,
traumatized when you left, just so you know.
yeah, but I learned a lot there too. So I just kind of looked at it like I'm going to become like this prison specialist now that I got to travel the United States and seen a couple of prisons. But despite being a U.S. citizen, having a nonviolent, and have served over 50% of my time with no disciplinary conduct in the last 10 years, for whatever reason, I was not placed at a camp. I was denied to go to camp and I was sent to an FCI. So I was released from an FCI. So I never got the opportunity to go to a camp.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Right.
So, one of the things that you said that really sparked I had made some notes about our conversation today. And, that's another thing that you and I have in common is that we were both given a long sentence, but neither one of us accepted that as our truth. And it's like from the very beginning, we have that in common that we were on a mission to not only to get out early, but to do to do the things we needed to do to get ourselves together and help our communities. And I really appreciate that about you. I think that's why we have such a strong bond. And we always had our eye on the earliest possible release date. One thing I forgot to mention is that you're also on the leaderboard of prisonprofessors.org. And that is, so beautiful because that is a platform that I'm currently working for Michael Santos. I'm an ambassador for him currently. And um, our mission is to get 10,000 people on the site in order to get the BOP and Washington to look at the value in what can be done when you bring awareness to the positive things you're doing while incarcerated and to
Yes.
document that journey on that platform. And I really appreciate that you're also an ambassador by, volunteer, getting people to, directing people onto the site as well and helping them
Yes.
to create content. And so good job,
Thank
you're so great, And so
you.
I wanted to say another thing is that here's some of the things I noticed that we have in common. Just for fun. This is what I made a
Okay.
list of. We both helped other people do their legal work, right?
Yes.
We both were passionate about helping other people do their legal work. And it was so funny because I was in a conversation when I came home with someone and they're like, Celeste, how many clemencies did you write for other people or 2255s or other? And did you realize that you were planting seeds for your own early release? And I was like, no, I was just doing it because they couldn't, and they asked me
Right.
to help them, and it's so beautiful how we do those things without hoping for a reward, just knowing that it's the right thing to do in that moment. And so I know that that's something we also have in
Mm-hmm.
common. The other thing we both have in common is that we are both teachers. We found a space within that community to teach others. And I, uh, I think that that's a gift. I think teaching is a gift, and you have it, and I have it, and so that's another thing we have in common. We both are leaders. We're both mentors, and I think that one thing that we both have in common is that we both, a lot of the younger women came to us like saw us in a mother or aunt role, and it seems like someone was always at our door looking for help, right? And
Yeah.
it's an honor. And the other thing is that we both had strong family ties. And that's what I wanted to ask you about today is like, how it was to transition back home, even though you had strong family ties all of those years, it must have been odd, right? Just a little bit.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about how you dealt with that, some of the struggles you faced, and how successful it was.
Okay. So because many years I tried to get out and I was not successful. I think my family, of course, my family loves me, but they lost a little bit of hope that I
Oh,
would come home soon. So
right.
when it did happen, it was almost like my family didn't believe it. So my poor mother, she was like, "Well, I'm not going to believe it until I see her."
Right.
When my father told her that they had called from the White House and said that my petition had been approved, she didn't believe it. She's like, "Well, I won't believe it until I see her." So I mean, it's sad, but that's what happens to our family. They love us, they support us, but they lose hope also.
Yeah.
And of course, my family was very happy that I was coming home. We just didn't know exactly when it would happen, so it was a surprise. And because I got immediate release, I'm very grateful that it happened that day and I was released that day. But at the time, when we were told from the White House, called my father and told him that my petition had been approved. We didn't know exactly what that meant. We didn't know if I was going
Right.
to get released that day or I would be released in a week, 2 weeks, because that's happened before. People get the approval and it might not happen that day.
Oh,
But the
I
way
didn't get
mine,
out for
the
6 months.
right. So I didn't know what to expect. So, that day I was kind of in shock and I was like, okay, well, I don't know what's going to happen. So I just continued my day as usual. I went to dinner. Coming back from dinner, I said, oh, I'm going to go talk to some friends. So I was walking around and you mentioned the Grizzlies, right?
Yeah.
They were also granted their clemency the same day as me. So
Oh,
I was
wow.
watching the news and I was like, oh, okay. And, there was other people that also got it that same day. So I'm watching the news and I'm like, okay, but I'm still continuing my prison day,
So nobody had
routine.
told you anything.
No one had told me anything. So I didn't know what to expect.
Crazy.
And this is like
Right.
maybe 6 o'clock in Danbury, Connecticut. So I go, I chit chat for a little bit. And then one of the girls is like, maybe, you should go get ready. What if they call you? And I said, well, they haven't said anything. I even asked the officer that was on duty, have you heard anything? It's like, well, I'm sure you'll hear before us. And I'm like, okay.
Oh,
So I just kept about my day. And so I'm chit chatting with one of the ladies, and the lieutenant calls me. And they're like, oh my God, that's your call. You're leaving. And I said, oh, I don't know. So I go to the lieutenant's office, and she's like, look, you have 1 hour to pack your things. I said, okay. And she's like, it's late in the afternoon. I might have to put you in a hotel, but you got to go. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then now I'm running around. I'm like, okay, I got to get in the shower. I don't know what to expect really. So I was trying to call my son. I get on the telephone and then she comes around the corner and she says, you have to get off the phone. You have to get off the phone. We're trying to cut off your accounts and you have to get off the phone. And I'm like, I was just about to tell my son that I was going to be released that night. I didn't get an opportunity to tell him.
wow.
So I go to her office and I say, well, I needed to let my son know. Like, I don't, I still didn't know what to expect. I did not know how everything was going to play out or anything. So she's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to count one last time, which is stand up count, which in Connecticut was at 10 o'clock. And then after
Mhm.
that count, you'll come back to this office. And then from here, we're going to take you to the front, which is like the receiving and discharge. And that's all she told me. So I packed my things. I packed a bag, just a little duffel bag with some snacks, some my medication. And that's about it. Everything else I gave away because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know. So I just gave it away. And I just had my essentials for whatever traveling I was going to do.
Mhm.
So the team at Can Do wanted to purchase me a plane ticket. I know that from previous conversations that I've had with them that if this did happen, that would be what they would want to do is buy a plane ticket for me.
Mhm.
So
They're so amazing.
yeah, they are. Amy's the greatest.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in the office with the lieutenant. They do the count. I go sit in the office with the lieutenant and I'm waiting there. And then two officers come. They escort me to the front. They handcuff me one last time while we go through the small gate. Once I go through the gate, I'm sitting in it's like the front of the prison. It's like a receiving and discharge area. I'm sitting there, I'm waiting. And then the discharging officer comes and he brings me some paperwork and I sign it, which is the executive clemency. And he says, okay, we're gonna buy you a bus ticket and this and that. And I said, well, where am I gonna catch the bus? Because I'm not
You're
from
going
Connecticut
across America.
and
What do
I
you
have to get
mean?
to Las Vegas. So I'm like, okay. I said, well, can you write it down for me? So he makes like a piece of paper on the computer and writes it down. And he's like, I said, okay, so when do I have to report to probation? Because I know when you get out of prison, you have to report to probation or, something. And he's like, no. He's like, once you walk out these doors, you're completely free. He's like, you're not on
Woo!
probation. And I said, wow, I didn't even know exactly what that meant after so many years. So
Yes.
as, and so I had money on my account, but because it was so late in the day, they could not give me my money that was on my account.
Get
So
out of town.
he said, we're going to give you $140 gratuity. With these $140, I didn't realize the adventure. I would call it an adventure now. The adventure that was going to happen with this money. So I get released. He gives me $140 in cash, basically opens the door. So they were trying to find me a taxi. The taxi was supposed to take me to the bus station. The last bus leaves from Danbury, Connecticut, like at 10 something p.m. We could not find a taxi. So the lieutenant said, look, I'm going to take you myself. I said, okay. So she was kind enough to take me. She took me in the government vehicle and she said, look, I know you didn't get to call your parents. I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want her to get in trouble. But she was
Sure.
very, very kind. She said, as soon as we get off this parking lot, you can use my cell phone. And I said, okay.
Oh,
So as sure enough, as soon as we got off the parking lot, she let me use her cell phone. I called my son. My son's like, who is this? I'm like, it's me. He's like, wait, where are you? I said, I'm released. I'm out of prison. They couldn't believe it. They just couldn't believe it. I said, I have to go catch a train. And so the lieutenant drives me to his train station. We make it there just in time. So she just tells me, okay, you're going to go right there. You're going to buy the ticket. Okay, mind you, I've been in prison 17 and a half years. I do not know how to buy this ticket. It's some kind of
right.
machine. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, what do I do? So there was a man there and I'm like, excuse me, do you think you can help me buy this ticket? And the man was kind enough and he bought the ticket for me. I waited for the train. I got on the train. So this train is supposed to take me to Grand Central Station, New York, which was about an hour and 30 minutes away. So it has several stops. Like I said, I don't know where I'm going. So I'm just paying attention, paying attention. And then I kind of started talking to a man on the train. I just took it upon myself to kind of be open to talking to strangers, which normally they tell you not
Yeah,
to, especially, at
you're
12
right.
o'clock at night. But
Right.
I'm like, I have to do what I have to do because I have to get home. I have to figure this out. So I asked one of the men on there, I was like, excuse me, do you know like where I'm gonna get off? And I'm telling him I'm trying to go to the Central Station. He's like, oh yes, this. So he explains to me and I had to be open and tell him, I just got out of prison. I just got released. I really don't know where I'm going. And he's like, oh, okay. And he was kind enough to let me borrow his cell phone. And I was able to call my son and be like, I'm on the train now. I'm on my way to Grand Central Station. So I get to Grand Central Station and I always, when I tell this story, I always make the comment, I was like Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone looking around in Grand Central Station, literally lost in New York because I'm like, where do I go? So I'm looking around and I'm like, they told me you have to catch a taxi. And I'm like, well, how do I call it? So I walk
Right.
out. It's New York. By this time, it's past 12. I think it's like around 12 a.m. I'm looking around and I'm like, how do I call this taxi? So I was like, okay, I'm just going to ask them, how do I call it? They're like, just call it. So I'm like, hey, taxi. So then I walk up to the taxi. I walk up to the taxi and I'm like, I need to go to JFK. And I said, how much will you charge me to go to JFK? And he says,
$500.
well, how much do you have? And I said, I'm not telling this man how much money I have. I say, $50. That sounded about right. And he said, "Oh no, it's gonna be more than that." I said, "Well, how much?" And he's like, $90. And mind you, I had $140 minus $13 of a train ticket. So I probably had like what, like maybe 130 something left. No,
Yeah,
less
yeah,
than
yeah.
that. Maybe like
Yeah,
120 something left.
120.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so here I go, giving him $90, and now I have like $30 left or so. So I started explaining to him that I just got out of prison. I don't have a cell phone, and he lets me borrow his cell phone. So I called my son, and my son said, "No, no, bad idea. Do not go to JFK. You are not going to be able to get on the plane. You do not have a real ID." And I said,
Oh
"What do
my
you
gosh.
mean?" I said, "I have the BOP ID." He's like, "No, they're not going to let you on." And I was like, and I guess what normally happens on a regular release is when you get released, you get some kind of identifications. It's got your name, um, your date of birth. It's
Mhm.
NID from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, but it doesn't look like our regular inmate ID. It looks like an actual ID, but it says
Mhm.
Federal Bureau of Prisons. I didn't get that because I was released at 10 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
So I couldn't get on the plane. So he's like, your best bet is just to go to the Greyhound, because the BOP had bought me a ticket for the Greyhound. So I
Mhm.
said, okay, I guess I'll go to the Greyhound. So I told the man, please, no, no, don't take me to JFK. Take me to the Greyhound. Mind you, the
Mhm.
Greyhound station was maybe a couple blocks away, and he didn't give me money back from the $90. He kept my $90. So I get to
Wow.
the Greyhound and I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, where am I going? So I'm looking, I go to information, come to find out I'm at the wrong Greyhound station.
Oh my gosh.
So the biggest hurdle I would say is not having a communication device when you're released.
All
Now, this
right.
day and age, you cannot do anything without a cell phone.
Exactly.
You you can't call anyone, you can't change a ticket if your ticket is wrong.
Yeah.
It's it's almost near impossible this day and age. And the biggest thing is there are no pay phones. I looked around everywhere.
Never. They
Mind
don't
you,
have those anymore.
mind you, when
We blew that up.
by the time when I went into prison, there was a payphone still.
Payphone
So
on every
I
corner.
I was looking around for payphone so I can call, and I couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
that's why I had to talk to complete strangers, and they were kind enough to let me use their cell phone. So
Thank
anyway, I get
goodness.
to the Greyhound. I'm at the wrong station. Uh, the customer service man sees my frustration. She's like, "Don't worry, I'll help you." Anyway, he changes my whole itinerary, but now the bus that I'm supposed to take does not leave till 8 in the morning. So I'm literally
Oh.
at the Greyhound station from 1 a.m. till 8 in the morning, just sitting on the bench waiting for this bus. So then,
Thank God you had a snack.
yeah, thank God my friends packed me a snack and a change
Right.
of clothes and some basic hygiene, really.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, but they thought about that for me, because in the
Yeah.
moment I was just like rushing to get out. I was like, I
Sure.
better, go now. So I traveled on the Greyhound. I went through all the northern states. I went through Philadelphia, Ohio, Missouri, all the northern states. And then from
Mhm.
St. Louis, Missouri. And that's another thing that kind of irritated me. I had no cell phone. Here I am traveling the United States, going through
Mm.
all these states. First time I ever see the St. Louis Arch, and I don't
And
have a
you
cell phone
can't
to
take a
take a
picture.
picture of it.
Oh man.
So anyway, so I'm on the bus. We get to St. Louis, and on St. Louis, I get off. I buy a coffee. The coffee was like maybe $2, just regular black coffee, no creamer, no nothing, just regular black coffee. It was like $3. So I'm like, okay, I'm pushing it because I only have like $30. So then I said, I have to come up with something. I have to come up with a plan, or I'm not going to be able to eat. And
Right.
it's about 5 days of travel,
Oh
five
my
full days of
God.
travel to get from the East Coast to California. So
I
I'm like,
cannot believe they didn't get you an airplane. That's ludicrous.
because
Crazy.
I did not have probation, because I'm
Hmm.
free, and they just, I would say they just didn't care anymore.
Yeah,
It's
they
like,
were just done with you.
I'm
They're
done
like,
with
oh,
you.
she's
So
got plenty of time.
which I'm grateful, of course.
Yeah, of
But it
course.
did make it a little difficult to get home. It was just a little nerve-wracking because you're just released, you know, you have a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world, especially after 17 and a half years. It's a completely different world, and technology
I
has taken
can
over everything.
I could, just as you were telling that story, I saw about like 25 points where the average person would have had a whole meltdown. Like that took a strong person, right? So it's
I
funny
just
because,
had I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I just had to I think back on it now, and I just kept telling myself, okay, you can do this. You can do, I'm
Yeah,
that positive self-talk. I just kept
right.
telling
That's
myself,
right.
okay, look at it as an adventure. No,
Right.
free road trip. I just
And
had to
you're
keep
free.
I'm
Yeah,
free. Like this is
yeah.
what you wanted. Like it's fine. You can, if you can survive prison, you can survive a bus ride. And I said, I know I can survive it.
Yeah. At least
It
you
was
weren't
just a lot.
shackled.
Yes, yes, that is one thing
Yeah, that's the
that was.
first bus ride you were on without shackles in years.
Yes, 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 it
So it's
was.
interesting because I wanted to, that kind of reminded me of my situation when I received a presidential commutation. It was, uh, so I remember in January, I got mine from President Biden. And
Yes.
I remember in January, like, like you, I had been filing and petitioning and campaigning for so many years
Yes.
that when it actually happened, it was like, no way, no way,
It's
this
kind of a
can't be real.
surreal moment. You're
It's
like,
so surreal. And so, my parents were like kind of laughing. They're like, well, all these years, every year I'd be like, oh, they're changing laws. Their commission changed the guidelines. I'm going to get out this year. And they're like, okay, and they wanted me to, but they didn't necessarily want to like sell me a dream. And so
right,
anyway, but when I received it, I didn't really get like any solid response. Like somebody sent me a message on the bulletin board, a staff member, and was like, hey, pack your stuff, you're leaving, you got a pardon. And I was like, what? Okay. So then my friend from the Can Do Foundation obviously was like, yeah, you were awarded a commutation. And I was like, okay, but nobody told me anything. So, and it was on a holiday. So the staff member tells me, find a case manager, the on duty case manager, and go ask her. Well, she knew nothing, had no idea, nothing. So then the following day was a Wednesday, and I'm out there going to work, what I with my little cart out on the compound, and Miss one of the officers from trust fund, she's like, well, what are you doing here, Blair? You're leaving today. You better go to R&D. And I was like, what? Are you sure? Like, okay. So I go to R&D and they're like, no, 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 you're going to leave at noon. I was like, okay. So I go in, my significant other books me a flight, or he's like, okay, I'll get you a flight, and I'll fly there, whatever. Like, call my family, they're all expecting me. And at noon I go to R&D and they're like, oh no, come back at 2. What? So I come back, this is like the last week of July or January. So I go back at 2 o'clock and they're like, now I'm thinking something is weird because they've got the lieutenant, the R&D lieutenant, and everybody, and they're like, well, when do you think you should get out? And I was like, what? And they're like, well, you're not leaving today, and we're not sure when you're leaving, but what do you think? And I was like, I don't know. Like, this is kind of not my thing. That's kind of your job.
right.
So anyway, the next day, They do it again. They're like, no, no, actually, you are okay. Fine. I'm not playing these games with y'all anymore. I'm just going to go on about my life, you know. So, and I was actually very grateful because, you know, I had to train some people to take over
Right.
the peer success program. So I saw it as such a beautiful thing that I didn't get released that week
Mm-hmm.
or the next week or any week after there for many weeks. And that was fine because I needed that space to train somebody to how to take care of the garden and train somebody to how to be the
Mm-hmm.
director of the Pure Success program. And so I saw it as, you know, a beautiful thing. However, at some point, I got my transcript. A case manager that I was really had who had been my case manager many years before came and worked our unit. He got augmented, and he's like, "No, let me pull up your stuff." And he pulls it up, and he's like, "Oh no, you're eligible to leave immediately." And
Wow.
I'm like, what? He was like, yeah, as of March, you could go home. And he showed me the breakdown of like, they took 15 years off your sentence. Now, if they apply your FSA and your Second
Oh,
Chance Act, you could be out the door. So I'm like,
right.
well, how do we make that happen? You know? And he's like, well, you're going to have to get with your unit manager. And I was like, okay. So I go to the unit manager, I go to the unit team, and they're all just like, yeah. So they put me in for a halfway house, which I didn't need. And it wasn't for another year. So then I got with Michael Santos and Amy Pova and the leader of FAM and everybody else. And I'm like, hey, you know, they're telling, I think I probably emailed you as well. And I'm
Yes.
like, they're trying to tell me that I can't go right now. They're trying to take away my FSA credits. And I just, you know, and so I found myself, and I think that when you were talking, what reminded me of this is when you were on that bus, it's like this parallel emotional place. And I think I learned in RDAP, and you may have learned in FIT, that it's okay to have all these different emotions in
Yes.
one space, you know,
Yes.
whereas it used to be an uncomfortable thing. Now I'm able to process moments like that. And so in that moment, I was so incredibly consumed with gratitude at the prospect of leaving 15 years early. But at the same time, I was going to get what I had coming, what I had earned. And I had to step out of that space of gratitude and put that on the back burner and fight for what I knew was going to make a difference for somebody else later if I forged on with that fight. And that was to insist that they give me home confinement based on my FSA and my Second Chance Act. And it was like pulling teeth. But finally, the deputy director sent out a memo. A friend of ours, a mutual friend, she sent a message to the director and was like, "Hey, they're not giving home confinement." All of a sudden, 3 days later, there's the whole on the bulletin board. There's this directive talking about granting home confinement, and my unit manager called me back there like it was her idea. And she was like, well, I think you're a great candidate. Da, 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 da. And she's like, just if you could just prove to me why that you know that you have a reentry plan that works. Now, mind you, I've read the guidelines for home confinement, and that's nowhere on there. However, I said, well, if you'd like me to demonstrate something to you that was, that's more than what I gave the president of the United States to get out early, I'd be willing to do that. But like, come on, So anyway, thankfully, I was released on home confinement, but I watched as so many other people didn't have any idea of when they were leaving. And I think that that is something that needs to be changed. If reentry starts the first day, then we need to figure out a way to communicate better so that people can better prepare and that their families can better prepare, because that actually could have been a very dangerous situation for you. And I know that in some states they have laws against releasing prisoners after dark or after 10 o'clock. And I don't know. Obviously, the feds don't, or like you said, because you were completely done. But that doesn't change the fact that you're a female who had been in prison 17 plus years, had no experience with technology, no cell phone. And
Mhm.
here's another thing: if they're giving cell phones away on Facebook, on posts all the time, why can they not give them to people releasing from prison to at least to carry home and use for a while, you know?
Mhm.
Because, like you said, it is a very, it's not just scary, it's dangerous
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
female, especially. And so I think that that's something we probably need to put on paper and propose, you know, looking out for our sisters in the future, because that could have been a dangerous situation.
It's
So
and my team, my clemency team at Can was very worried. My parents were worried. Everyone was worried, but
but you
I
knew
just
you were good.
separated. I mean, I had to be. I had no choice.
Right, right.
But I mean, I'm pretty resilient, and I said I just have to be open to communicate with people, and I kind of just observed people. And the good thing was that a lot of these people were going to the same place. They were going all the way from New York City to the LA area. So I kind of gravitated towards people that I kind of seen their interaction on the bus. And I
Nice.
said, hey, I'm going to the same place you are. I'm just going to kind of stick by you. Mm,
Right.
you know, kind of just to have like an extra eye on me or, you know, something like that.
Sure.
And that helped out because a lot of us were going to the same place. So many hours on the bus, it's almost like we created this little bond, you know, because we get off
That's
on the same
cool.
stops. Yeah, it was actually
Yeah.
pretty cool. But what
Yeah.
was not cool, let me tell you what was not cool. So I started running out of money. So then I said, what do I have to do? You know, what do I have to do? And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. So then it came to my mind, um, I'm just going to have my son Zelle or Cash App some money to one of these people. And so I had to be trusting that
Oh,
whoever, because
right.
I was running out of money for
Mm,
food. And so
sure.
I said, I have to just trust that I make a good decision. And this, whoever I send this money to just doesn't like, you know,
Ghost you.
take my money.
Right.
Yes. So one of the men that was sitting next to me, on the bus, I asked him, I'm like, hey, do you think you can help me out? And he was like, yeah, I'll help you. So he gave me his Cash App. So I told my son, can you please send him $50? And I just told him, I'll buy you lunch because I was very grateful because he was helping me because I didn't have a
Uh-huh.
cell phone or any way to receive
Sure.
money.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, don't worry, you don't have to buy me." And I said, no, 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 please let me buy you at least lunch. So the next stop, I think, was like Oklahoma City or something. And we got off on the at the gas station and I bought him, you know, a sandwich, a gator, whatever snacks he wanted. And then I spent the rest of the money and he was very nice to help me. So I was very appreciative of that. So I didn't have to go hungry. And then,
You know, I love the fact that there's so many amazing people in
there is,
America.
there
So
is,
many America, so many in the United States. We have some good people.
yeah, there's still very, very good people out there. And once I explained to them, like, you know, I just had to be open to explain, you know, my
Right.
situation. And it is scary because you don't know how people might judge you or
Sure.
look at you different. Well, at least I felt that people could judge me and be like,
But
well,
isn't that interesting how the world has changed in 17 years? Because
yes,
when I went to prison when I was young and I got out in 1997, there was a huge stigma against prisoners. Like everybody looked at you. You were a third class citizen. And right now, babe, we're trending.
right. Funny to say, but yes,
Especially, it's true
yes,
though. It's reentry is trending, and it's a beautiful
yes.
thing because, you know, especially when you're a strong, beautiful, evolved woman. And that is actually the next thing we're going to talk about. But so, yeah. So tell me about when you got home though.
So how I actually, okay, so the bus, we were supposed to get off in Albuquerque and get another bus. So we get to
Okay.
Albuquerque and come to find out the bus broke down. So now,
Oh.
yeah. So they tell us, the customer service or the people at the bus station tell us that they're going to send us what they call a rescue bus. This so-called rescue bus did not arrive. So I'm sitting there going, what do I do? So mind you, again, I need a cell phone to call customer service to change
Yeah.
my ticket because at this particular station, they are like affiliated with Greyhound. They're not, it's not actual Greyhound. It's like a dual Greyhound, some of their train Amtrak or
Nothing,
something.
nothing in Oklahoma is legitimate.
No, by this time I'm in
Oh, okay, okay,
Albuquerque. I'm in
okay,
Albuquerque. Okay, so
okay.
I'm still about maybe 8 hours from home driving. So I call my parents. Somebody was, again, nice enough to let me borrow their phone. And I call my parents, I call my son, and I'm like, look, this is the situation. I can't leave. The the next bus will not be till the next day at 8 in the morning. So I have to literally sit in this bus station till the next morning. Um, and I got to that station at like 6 in the morning. So I'm talking to my dad, and my dad's like, look, just stay put in the station. And they decided to drive to Albuquerque 8 hours to come pick me up. He said, just sit tight, don't move. I'm like, okay. So I
Oh,
just waited. And so he got there like 8 hours later, and then we drove back.
oh,
And
that's so
so,
precious.
yes, because they were ready for me to be home. They were ready. And
Yeah.
so, um, when I came home, it was good, but also at the same time, I have to right now still I'm kind of sharing a room with my son, because we're actually making an extra room, but the room is not finished. Hopefully today it will be finished. I'm going
Oh,
on
cool.
almost 4 months trying to complete this little room so I could have my own room, my own living space.
Nice.
So it's been me and my son joke about it a little bit, like, oh, I have a new roommate. Like, my son is my roommate. I've had
Yeah,
a roommate or two roommates, or at times
yeah.
three roommates. Um, and you get, that's a whole nother story, a whole nother topic, but you get stuck with
Right.
very random people. But, I'm okay with it because it's my son,
Yeah.
so now that the rooms are going to be about done, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go. And he's like, what's wrong with me? I'm like, no, nothing is wrong with you, but I just want my own space.
Right.
Yeah, but we've made it work. We help each other out, and
Oh, that's so
it's
beautiful.
it's just normal family things. We have our little disagreements here and there, but all in all, I'm with family, which is what matters.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and when I first got home, my
Finally.
mom my mom had just retired. She just retired like maybe about 4 or 5 months ago from working after like 25 years. And so every day she wanted to make food. And I'm like, Mom, no, please. I'm but she was just happy that I was home, and she's like, well, I'm gonna make homemade this, homemade that. I'm like, oh God, Mom. I mean, I loved it, don't get me wrong, but I was like, Mom, I can't eat like this. Like, it's gonna catch up to me. But
I
but
understand.
everybody's happy. Like, everybody has received me well. By my team at Can Do, Malik King,
I
who
love
works
Malik.
with
We
me.
have the
Yes.
same birthday. Did you
Oh,
know he and I have
really?
the
I
same
didn't
birthday?
know
Yeah.
that. That
I
is
used to have
awesome.
video visits with him on my birthday every year because
Okay,
he and I have the
okay.
same birthday.
So,
Yeah, he's a
so
good dude.
yeah, so Malik tells me, why don't you go to Hope for, he says, do you know John Ponder? And I said, no. And he's like, do you know Hope for Prisoners? I said, oh, I've heard of them before, because when I used to look up like reentry things, you know how we have that reentry system in prison, and I would look it up, and I found their address, and it sparked my interest because it was in the Las Vegas area, and I knew I was going to release to Las Vegas. I wrote to their organization 2 times, and I never received anything back. So I said,
Wow. It
I'm
was
like,
meant.
so he tells me to call, and he's like, I actually have a point of contact there. And I said, okay. So he's like, send her a message, kind of introduce herself. So I did it. And then 5 minutes later, this lady calls me, and she's like, Annabelle. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, Annabelle, I don't know if you remember me, but I was with you in Dublin, California. And I said, oh my God, Carolyn, you are my friend. And sure enough, and I'm like, wait, you work at this place? And she's like, yes, I'm the director. And I said, oh, okay. So I'm like, so you got me? She's like, absolutely. Come on Tuesday, because every Tuesday we do orientation for
Mhm.
new clients that will be joining the program. So I go there,
So
I do
tell
the
us a little bit about Hope
orientation,
for
everything.
President. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Tell us a little
Um,
bit about
hope for
what you do
no,
there.
no, no. Yes. So what I do there, I'm a case manager for Hope for
Nice.
Prisoners, and I'm like a case manager slash, you could say, career coach. So what I do is
Awesome.
what we do at Hope for Prisoners is we eliminate any barriers to reentry. So if employment is a barrier, transportation is a barrier, identification, there's so many barriers to reentry. So what
Sure.
we try to do there is it's a nonprofit organization, and what we do is we eliminate those barriers.
Mhm.
But the ultimate goal is for people to get education or training to build a
Mm,
career. So it's not just
mm.
about getting an employment. It's like a full circle, like working on your mental health, working on if you have substance abuse, um, anything that could be a barrier for you to be successful. And that's what I really like because I really like their mission and I'm very passionate about it because of course being justice impacted it I'm now realizing that the biggest barrier is one of the biggest barriers is that background check. And so a lot of people get turned down for certain jobs just because of the background check. And what I like about Hope for Prisoners is we have an in-house team, which is called the workforce team, and they go out and they make connections with people in the community and find, promising jobs for people that are well paid. We
Wow.
our goal is above $17 an hour because everything is expensive and we want people to succeed. So we our goal is to be over $17 an hour so that people can eventually be able to pay their own rent and do their own things. But any barriers, like for instance, if I meet with the client and they have to come in and do certain things and they do not have a car, I give them bus passes. Our
Mm.
organization gives them bus passes. If they own their own car, we give them gas cards. We try to eliminate any barrier for them to be successful. And
That
but the
is so
key,
cool.
it is really cool. But the key component of it all is mentorship. And coming from a peer success team and the whole mentor thing and the whole mentor space and peer to peer, I realized that the most effective way to help people is to have that mentor because some people have the potential, but they just need that extra guidance,
Yeah, a little
that
accountability
extra,
partner.
yes. And that is the part that I like the most. And I think that's what makes the difference is having that person that you can talk to, someone that's in the community. And mind you, some of these mentors are like very successful,
Yeah,
very, very
that's so
successful.
cool.
And they genuinely want to help people. And it's just great to see that so many people want to help people.
Mm.
And it's beautiful because they'll we develop when we meet the first time we do what is called a graduate assessment. So after they do a 40 hour workshop which simulates a work week. They'll come from 8 in the morning to 5 p.m. for 1 week. After they complete the workshop, at the workshop they learn many things. They have guest speakers where they learn a little bit about finance. They learn about setting goals, you know things that successful people do. And they learn about the commitment because the commitment with our organization is for 18 months, but it's not 18 months uh, necessarily that you have to be. It's more like for 18 months, we will support you in anything that you need. So,
That's
for example,
beautiful.
if you get a job and then something happens and you lose the job and you need to get another job, we'll support you with bringing you back to help find another job or anything that's a barrier for you to be
Awesome. And
successful.
so,
So
where do these people generally live? Are they in a halfway house or are they wherever? Does it matter?
generally, most of these people are coming out. Many of them, I would say at least maybe more than half of them are coming from state prison in Nevada.
Mm. Hmm.
And then there's a certain number that is coming from the federal prison, which the majority of them live at the federal halfway house. What I like about this organization is they do team up with a lot of the state prisons and they have a lot of programs where they kind of do it kind of simulates like a work release program.
Mm.
And so the people that are nonviolent, like good conduct, and they've worked their recidivism down, they're allowed to go to what they call it's like a transitional housing. One of them is
Hmm.
called CASA,
Mm.
and they're able essentially they're still in prison, but they're able to work. They're
Mm.
able to start saving money so that
Awesome.
their reentry is a lot more successful.
That
And I
sounds like the
really,
model. That sounds like the model the BOP needs to adopt right there,
yes,
right?
yes.
That's
And
definitely the model that I wish Director Joshua, Deputy Director Josh Smith would. I'm going to have to send him this link because I know he knows, but that sounds like the perfect model for a nationwide reentry program,
yes.
right?
So as I see this and I see it work and I see people that come home from these programs, which started, let's say, for example, there's one of the clients that he started working on himself while he was in prison and helping others and kind of being like a teacher's aide while he was in prison. And he did a
Mm-hmm.
welding program. He was just released maybe about a month ago. He got his welding certification, pardon me, and he this he did the workshop, and this Friday was his graduation. At the graduation, he was offered a job, and the job is
Oh,
going to consist of him going back to help others that he left behind in prison,
wow.
that are trying to develop their skills, because he was so impactful in helping them with the program while he was inside. They've recognized that he
Oh,
was awesome, you know,
kudos to him.
and
That's beautiful.
that really inspired me, because it it's just peer to peer, you know. We're
Yeah.
helping others in turn. It's just going to make the community better. You know, we're all going to be released one day. We're going to
And they
get
say
careers.
95% of the people in prisons will be in your community eventually. That's a strong statistic.
So to me,
And
it makes sense to help others.
it does. You're so beautiful. I'm so glad we're friends. And
Thank you.
I look forward, like, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. And I look forward to, next time maybe we'll hook up with Anna with Naomi. But I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. Your
Yes.
story is so powerful and inspiring, and I look forward to seeing what you do next, especially like you know, uh, well, hopefully come to visit me.
Yes.
Yeah, I just love you. It was so good to see you today. And we'll have to, I'm going to come up with an interesting topic for us. Maybe we'll talk more specifically about, like uh, transitioning home in some other ways soon.
Yes.
All
Yes, I
right.
would
I
like
love
that.
you.
Thank
Thank you. That
you.
you're such a beautiful speaker. Thank you so much for blessing
Thank
us
you
with
for
your presence
inviting
today.
me.
You're welcome.
I love you.
I
Thank
love
you.
you too. Peace, sister.
Bye.